sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward.
Welcome, everybody, and hello.
How do you stand out? What you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes.
One of the first memories that I have as a kid
is one of the things that I really remember was when I was in Oakland and going to the zoo there. Okay, so hopefully everybody's been to a zoo somewhere, right? You've been to your local zoo. Maybe you got a chance to go to the San Diego Zoo if you're here in the U.S. It's one of the biggest ones in the world. It's a very, very cool location. Orlando's got, the smaller zoo, and then it's got the Disney Animal Kingdom. So, essentially an amusement park with a zoo around it. Really cool spot. So I want you guys to think about maybe that first time that you went and some of the animals, favorite animal. I remember one is the hauler monkey, the ones where no matter where you're at in the zoo, you start to hear that whoop, 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 right? And they have their neck just kind of bubbles out and they just holler and holler, right? And just throughout the day, no matter where you're at in the zoo, you hear that. So imagine walking around as a kid, hearing all of these animals, seeing all of these amazing things. And there's stuff that you look at in books that you see in movies, and especially as a kid, maybe your first introduction to some of these things were Disney movies, and you're seeing these animals for the first time. Now, some of them, obviously, we know some were, in the wild. Many of them were rescued, and that's how they end up in captivity there. And I'm not getting into a discussion on, whether or not it's right or wrong. The reality is many of these animals, the only reason they're alive is because they were, nursed back to health and then brought into captivity at one of these locations. So anyway, you've got all sorts of different kinds of animals, and some of them are safe to pet or, spend time with, and others remain dangerous no matter what you do with them. But some of the most majestic, some of the most amazing, I always thought were big cats. Like those are amazing, right? The big cats, the wolves. They had a few wolves, at the zoo in Oakland there that I remember. And then soon after that, my dad worked, one of the jobs he had when I was growing up, my dad was a security guard at this location, and they had a wolf. It was supposed to be a wolf German Shepherd mix they had as the security dog, but it was mostly wolf. It was a big, and maybe I'm just remembering it being huge and scary because I was a kid at the time. His name was Rocky, and he just scared the hell out of me. But between Rocky and then seeing these big cats at the zoo, I mean, you gain this respect. Well, it's interesting because some of these animals were born there, right? We're born in captivity. Tigers, lions, born there, as opposed to the jungles throughout Asia and Africa. And yet, and they're raised, and oftentimes from a very, very young age, they're bottle fed by zookeepers. They're taught to spend all of their time around humans. They are domesticated in many ways, right? They react, they smile, and we've all seen probably those little clips of, even out in the wild, you see that there's people that spend time with lions and tigers in the wild, and then they go and they visit, and these lions remember them from years, from having been raised, right? And they come running up and pounce just to really give a hug to these keepers. And yet, despite the fact that they're domesticated, despite the fact that they were raised by humans, they live their whole life with people, they're kept in an area behind a lock. Now, some people would say it's, to not let them out, but oftentimes it's still to protect other people from interacting. And why is that? If they're domesticated, because there remains within those animals, many of them, that instinctual knowledge that they're meant to be free, that they are predators, that they are capable of, that there's more to life, even if they haven't even lived it yet. There's something more that they have inside of them that keeps that little bit of danger. And there's a lot of stories, and I think one of the most well-known would be, Siegfried and Roy, who lived with their lions and tigers, who cared for them, who had them in their shows all of the time, who, had them walking around their house and living, together with them there in Vegas, and to then be attacked by one of these animals that they spent every moment of their life with, simply because these animals knew that there was something different about them. How many of you are living in a zoo? How many of you have put yourself into that cage and voluntarily closed that lock and said, I'm okay here. I'm all right. Maybe you've domesticated yourself a little too much. You're stuck behind the cage and you're pacing back and forth and you're saying, look, I am majestic and I am beautiful and I'm wonderful, but I'm content. I'm good here. Now, most of us are, in one way or another, behind that cage. The difference is that some of us are kind of pawing back and forth going, damn it, there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. My blood, my heritage, my divine right is greater than simply remaining locked in a cage. But you've given yourself the permission to remain there. And so what do you need to do to change that? Because the truth is, you're not supposed to keep yourself locked in a cage. They talk about, the best man, the best woman, the best individual isn't one that sits down and just says, I am content. They're the ones that have a bit of danger and brilliance and maybe even a little bit of craziness inside, but they find a way to channel it and to control it and to keep themselves moving forward at a pace where other people look at you and maybe every once in a while you need to live your life in a way that other people look and say, they're a little crazy, but damn it if they aren't driven. So what are you doing right now in your life where you've left the cage locked? Are you, leaving yourself locked in simply means you keep your diet shit. You eat whatever the hell you want because it just doesn't matter much, right? So that's one way that people do it. So taking your health in hand is important. It's one of the first important steps. The next is, what are you feeding yourself emotionally and mentally? What is it that you're bringing in? Are you allowing yourself to sit behind a cage where they just, right? They throw over the meat, or they hand it through the tray, or here it is all chopped up and prepared. Here's everything that you need. This is it. This is all you need. Or you're looking at it going, you know what? Yeah, I'm surviving with this. I'm getting by, but I need more. I need to get stimulated a bit more. So mentally, emotionally, what are you consuming? What are you bringing in? I asked this question last week, right? Like, who are your mentors right now? What kind of information are you shoving into your head? That's one way you can start to remove some of those locks, right? Don't listen to, and look, some of those locks may have been placed there by your parents growing up. It may be, within, a religion where you force yourself to believe a certain thing without looking at it. And I'm not telling you to question your beliefs, but I want you to question every single thing in life and find that truth and find that faith for yourself, right? I have faith. I believe what I believe, but I believe what I believe because I've tested it out for myself, right? Question everything. Don't just allow them to feed you whatever it is that you've been fed. At work, when they tell you you can or can't do something, every once in a while, just ask why not. Test the links in the fence. Look for a way out. It's time to break through. So today I want you to sit down. I want you to think about all of those little locks that you may have placed on yourself. I want you to look at where it is that you need to, push so that you can find yourselves out on the savannah, free in the jungle, running around and living life in all your potential, because you are majestic and you are wonderful. And some of you are a little bit crazy and wild and savage. And that's exactly how you're supposed to be. You just got to direct it and keep yourself guided and moving forward. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, go think, go do, take some action, find a way to always rise from the ashes, fly like the phoenix.
Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it.
Just go forward.
So what do you need to do? How do you stand out?
So what you need to do is be that person that's different
And it's bigger than you think.
rise from the ashes and fly.